Welcome to Burning Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Tuesday. Still coming at you late, but I think I'm a little better prepared for it today. We shall see. Time will tell. This is the Friggin Farm Ranch Report for Tuesday, June 3rd, 2026. I started a new thing on my Substack. So before we get into all of that stuff, got to readjust my mic. And make sure you head over to burningdaylight.substack.com. That is where I post all my episodes, but also I post the full transcript of this show and I'm trying to make it. This is something I'm trying new with the Friggin Farm Ranch Report. So it's going to be an immersive experience, as I'm calling it. But it has all of the links, and it has some graphics and charts and stuff that go along with this episode, plus a list of all the sources at the end. And it has, like I said, you can read exactly what I'm saying in the article. You can follow along as you listen, and then it also has some side notes where I deviate from the script because I haven't compared the transcript with the script that I put together before the show. And so it's I think it's going to be kind of cool, and it all links back to either the Burning Daylight Report dashboard or separate links that that I use to put this show together. So anyway, head over to there, burningdaylight.substack.com. You get all of this. You get ad-free episodes unless I've got a Sale Barn sponsor. And then you get access to all the apps that I'm building that help me put this together. The Burning Daylight Report, which is really a useful tool. It's got some pretty neat features. A Man About a Horse app, I talked about that several times, and it's a little stale right now, so I'm not giving you any new information on the horse market because I've been busy with other stuff. But that is back on the burner, and I want to get that rolling here pretty good. I'm also working on a homeschool dashboard so anybody that wants to homeschool their kids, but also have a life outside of the house and be able to do stuff during the day. This is a way where you can keep track of your kids, and they can get a hold of you if they need help, and you can follow along, make sure they're doing their work, and they can ask questions. It's got a search bot in there as well that will help them with their work, but not do their work for them. So I'll be working on that this summer, so it should be ready to go for next school year. Anyway, all that stuff you can find out about at burningdaylight.substack.com, or if you just if you're interested in any of the apps that I'm created, just give me a holler. I'm on all the social media platforms, I think, all the main ones anyways. It's either Matt McKinley or Burning Daylight, at Move Your Ass, or you can also check out the Friggin Farm Ranch Report. So all that to say, we got a pretty good show for you today. So we got the board getting hammered again. Live cattle is still holding strong, or the cash cattle. Live cattle was down, closed down at 239.80. That was down 9.95, almost 4% on the session. Two pretty ugly closes in a row. Feeders held a little bit better at 348.90. They were down 413, about another percent. And the 5-area cash trade from last week came in at 256.81, 402.50 dressed. So the board is sitting at 239 and change, and the spread is pushing close to $17. So again, the board and the cash market are not telling the same story. And again, I think the cash market is the market. I think they're telling the truth here. Now, not to say every participant in that cash market is an honest actor, because we all know some cattle traders, and there's some good ones, and there's some real snakes out there, kind of like every profession in the world. Anyhow, August feeders at 348.90. Lean hogs came in at 98.75. They're up $1.77 on the day. Hogs have no concern as to what the cattle market's doing. And then we got some more news on the energy and input side of things. West Texas crude was up today, closed out at 94.56. Brent's at 96.78. That is a low spread between the West Texas index and Brent crude. Usually runs about $10, and now we're running about $2 and change. So it's little sketchy out there. Not gonna lie, little bit sketchy. Okay, let's talk about the sale barn stuff. Had a few different barns that I didn't mention, but over on the Burning Daylight Report, the Sale Barn Pulse is showing hasn't updated since yesterday, but 23,068 head went through the ring. Averages across all of them came in at 415.74 a hundredweight. A couple of barns to mention: Gainesville Livestock out of Missouri, some 540-pound cattle. Across average 540 pounds, 1,784 head total, 467.32 average on the 100-weight price. Bluegrass Stockyards over in Kentucky, they ran 1,560 head at 557 pounds, coming in at 468.83 a hundred. Bowman Livestock out of North Dakota was 638-pound average, 1,146 head, 431.79 a hundred. And Fort Scott Livestock there in Kansas, as in southeast Kansas, 1,658 head, came in at 449.36. So every single one of those barns is printing at mid 400s on live on 5 and 6 weights, not live. The board said those cattle ought to be worth less today than they were yesterday, and the guys that are bidding on them and writing the checks in the sale barn are saying otherwise. Over at Beaver County Stockyards there in Oklahoma, their sale ran today. They ran 5,810 head. That's there in Oklahoma Panhandle. Really nice sale barn. I haven't been there in years, but I did work a couple of days over there before I moved out to Nevada. They had some light bulls running 380 to 447 a head. Fed bulls at 1,680 pounds brought 219 a pound or 100, or about 3,726 head for on the per head price. Also, Kate Bowen out of Meadowdale Farms she's down in Tennessee now, originally Vermont. She sent me one from Greenville, Tennessee, and that was on the 30th. They ran a total of 417 head, and it looked like on the heifers, their 4 and 5 weights are bringing 378.89, 347.36. The heavier end, I mean, really outside of the 2 and 3 weights, everything's it's southeastern cattle. On the steer side, what do we have here? Those are Holstein steers. So they had some 4 weights that brought 409.46 a hundred. 3 weights brought 438.94. And then they had a pretty small sale, but they had all kinds of stuff. Looks like the kind of lower end quality, given the prices that were coming out of there. So every single one of the barns that I mentioned outside of the Tennessee one, I need to look at that one a little more. They're printing in the mid 400s on 5 and 6 weights. The board said that these cattle ought to be worth less than yesterday. So it's the same story at every barn and that pulls today. The light calves, people can't get them bought fast enough. And the heavier steers they're following the board and kind of tracking lower. The gap between a 4-weight calf and an 8-weight feeder on a dollar per head basis probably hadn't ever been higher. We got Clovis, New Mexico headed tomorrow, today, as you're listening to it. Superior Livestock also has a video sale. Billings, Montana on Thursday, Torrington on Thursday, Producers Livestock in Salina, Utah on Thursday as well. We'll watch those runs and the weight breakdowns on those sales. But that's your sale barn pulse on the day. Let's get into the whole cattle structure, what's right, what's wrong, and some stuff going on. So 2 things hit today, and neither one's a real fundamental change in the cattle market. But on the first end, the grain complex got hammered. Corn was down 3.5%, wheat down 4.7%, and beans down 2.6%. When the algorithm funds see a sell-off that size in grains, they look for anything in the commodity complex that's looked extended all spring. Cattle have been kind of that trade, so they hit sell on that. And then the second thing is Iran popped off even more so, but we'll get to that in the war reel here in a little bit, because that's a bigger story than just this blurb. Cattle market fundamentals have not changed, though. The U.S. beef cow herd is at 27.6 million head. That's the smallest since 1951, when Harry Truman was president, before Dwight D. Eisenhower took the office. And that still hasn't changed. We haven't got a sudden influx of live cattle breeding stock. It just hasn't happened, and it doesn't happen. So we covered that yesterday, but it's not a herd rebuild signal. It's there's a feedlot refill on whatever cattle are available, but the structural supply story is pretty much the same. There's one, I think I've mentioned it briefly in a previous episode. I don't remember what, but we'll talk about Cargill over in Fort Morgan, Colorado. That plant has been offline since April 23rd, and there is a labor lockout. So the ownership or management, whoever, locked the striking worker or the negotiating workers out of the plant. But by the time the lockout happened, that they hadn't run any cattle through it in a couple of weeks already, at least, maybe closer to a month, I believe. I think it was last week I first come across that story, and got a little bit in squirrel mode, and I didn't ever come back to it. I was also kind of waiting to see if anything was going on, but as I mentioned, and just hearing some chatter on social media and stuff, there's a pretty good chance they closed that plant down. And we keep talking about this cow herd shrinking, and that does affect the Packers side too as well. They don't need as many plants running because they can't fill them. They can't keep the chains moving with the capacity that they have on hand. There's just not enough cattle to fill that. But you've got tight packer capacity by design, and then you pull a major facility off the table for a month and a half. It really shifts the leverage, and then if they close it down completely, that just adds to the crunch, and it could possibly lead to a bigger backlog of fat cattle, which helps them drive the prices down on on the per head basis, which impacts your live or your cash cattle market. But it's a big plant. It runs about 5,000 head a day, and it's a pretty big hit on the capacity. And like I said before many times, I think is more than anything just kind of a leverage pull by the Packers, trying to drive that cash price down as much as possible. All right, let's talk the grain and feed side of stuff for today. All your inputs. Corn closed down at $4.40. That was down 16 cents. Beans were at $11.63, down 31.5. Hard red winter wheat at $6.34. That was down 31.25. And soybean meal's at $325.10 a ton. That's down $9. Over at AgWeb, the market wrap today says it pretty straight. Grain markets made new lows on additional fund long liquidation. Say that again. Grain markets made new lows on additional fund long liquidation. So there's a lot of long positions out there in the grain market. The analyst says the grains have divorced from the crude oil market and are trading on the weather. The speculative funds are watching the forecast maps and not the energy prices. But for you as a feed buyer, this week gave you a little bit of breathing room on the ration side. Corn's at under $4.50 and meal's at $3.25. That's better than where we were 6 weeks ago. Feedstuffs dropped their June 2026 ingredient price update today. And that's worth taking a look at before you lock in any of your ration contracts. But the bigger grain story is still the wheat. I'm not going to rehash everything that I talked about yesterday, but that number is worth repeating. 15% on the good to excellent side of things in Kansas on a crop that's pretty much all headed out by now. So we're into June, gonna be harvesting here pretty quick. And what you're seeing today is a profit taking on the trade that got long after the WOTUS report shock. The short crop is still short, and for a rancher buying hay or feed wheat, today's dip might be a better entry point before the next weather scare pushes that thing back up. Another angle on the trade side, the National Corn Growers Association is pushing hard ahead of the USMCA review. So that's the trade agreement between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. The USMCA, U.S., Mexico, Canada. Should be USMSM, U.S., Mexico, Snow Mexico. So the National Corn Growers Association is pushing hard ahead of the USMCA review this summer, and they're calling it unprecedented. Mexico is the #1 corn export customer. So if that review gets messy, it's not a small thing for the corn farmer. So keep an eye on that. We'll see how it goes. But if you know any Mexicans, and I know quite a bit of them, quite a few, half Mexican myself, we like our tortillas. And where did that come from? That comes from corn. At least there's flour tortillas too. So that's wheat. That adds to the whole thing. I don't know what the wheat situation is in Mexico. Must have some because they make a lot of flour tortillas as well. But corn is the staple. Street corn, corn tortillas, and masa for your tamales. Like they use a lot of corn over there. More on the input side, the fuel and the fertilizer. So yesterday I told you diesel was at $5.52. That number has updated for the week. So now the EIA on highway diesel for the week of June 1st came in at $5.35 a gallon. That was down 17 cents week over week. So that's a good little cushion. Still high as hell, but it's 17 cents is 17 cents. Just ask your mother. And she'll know what I'm talking about. So, on the other hand, though, the crude oil price shot up again because shit's popping off in the Hormuz, and diesel lags a little bit behind the crude market. So we saw 2 days in a row of up pretty sharply. So the next week, it might be on 2 weeks from now on the diesel average. You're going to see a price hike on that. But if we keep seeing that price climb this week, I would imagine you're going to see the diesel price tick up by next week. What was the AAA? AAA, the national average for diesel came in at 5.43, so that was right on par. A little lower actually than the EIA average, which usually it runs a little higher. Down 15 cents from last week. So there was some real relief at the fuel pump. but I don't get comfortable. The West Texas index closed out at 94.56 a barrel. That was up 5.66 on the session. So it closed out yesterday at 92. Must have dipped a little bit overnight, but it shot right back up. And that's not a technical move. It's the market repricing a shooting war in the Gulf, Persian Gulf in real time. I'll tell you exactly what happened on the war reel here in a few minutes. But diesel follows the crude with a lag of about a week to 10 days. The pump relief you got this week is probably already printed over by what's happening over there, over the last couple of days. On the fertilizer side, nothing's changed since I updated you yesterday, except that whole Hormuz situation. So don't expect your fertilizer prices to go down. Urea coming in at $632 a ton. That's up 12% year over year. Anhydrous, I don't know what the numbers they're printing there, because anhydrous is over 1,100. So that I did not fact check that part of the slide well enough. Let me look here on I'll pop it up on the screen. We'll see what the live price is there. DAP's at 853, MAP's at 910, potash, where's urea at? Urea's at 632 a ton. That's just not right. Not a chance that anhydrous went down $400 overnight. That'd be crazy. Absolutely. It'd be madness. Madness, I tell you. It's still showing it at 765. So, that's not right. Or at least I'm not going to verify that at all, or I'm not going to say that's verified. That's almost $400 a ton drop in anhydrous. That didn't happen, especially with the shit popping off that already did. But long story short, every one of your fertilizers here is up considerably, as much as 40% since February or December. Either way, up a lot. Okay, let's get into the war reel. So it's a pretty big developments, and I'll tell you what I've learned from some confirmed sources. So I used France 24, the War Zone, BBC, and the U.S. Central Command as sources on this. As of this evening, it was about 5 o'clock Pacific time. Iran launched a wave of missiles and drones targeting military bases in Kuwait and Bahrain. CENTCOM says it intercepted and defeated those attacks. In self-defense, U.S. forces struck an Iranian military ground control station on Qeshm Island. That's Queshm, and it's in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran state media is calling their drone and missile launches as retaliation for the Qeshm Island strike, and the U.S. is calling it self-defense. They struck Qeshm Island in self-defense of this missile and drone strike. So they're both wrong and they're both right. It depends on who you're listening to. They both sides think the other side struck first, and I am an America First guy. So I'm going to say fuck Iran on that, but also this administration is retarded for being over there, and Israel is really not helping our cause. On a separate note, the U.S. Navy fired a missile at a oil tanker headed for Iran after the crew ignored repeated warnings. BBC confirmed it, and the engine room was hit. So yesterday I told you that we went from boring negotiations, that was Trump's direct quote, from the White House to the CNBC. And we went to active strikes in 72 hours, and now we got the next chapter. The ceasefire wasn't ever really a ceasefire. Israel is still hammering southern Lebanon, and Lebanon peace talks are reportedly resumed in Washington today, but Netanyahu went on record saying that the campaign continues regardless. Trump reportedly went apeshit on Netanyahu on a phone call over Beirut, over strikes in the suburbs of Beirut, which is the capital city there in Lebanon, which tells you that the alliance between the U.S. and Israel is under strain. But all of this bitching out of Netanyahu did not help anything. Israel's still continuing with their strikes in Lebanon. I think they still have a pretty large ground invasion or ground troop mobilization planned. Whether it's underway or not, I'm not for sure of that as of this time. But either way, there's a lot of talk about how Netanyahu told Donald Trump this, and a lot of posturing, and it doesn't do well to help the narrative that Israel doesn't have huge influence on U.S. politics. Just listen to what both sides are saying. And Trump, in public, talks very deferential about Netanyahu, and Netanyahu, on the other hand, talks like he's running the show. Is he? I don't know. But again, optics would show that, based on those statements, that Netanyahu feels like he's running the show there, and he's going to do what he wants. So here's how this lands on the operation right now for the farmer and rancher. Your crude's up 6% today. Your fuel bill will be moving. Diesel follows the crude with about a week or 10 days of lag. We got a dip in the diesel prices this week, but that dip is probably gone by next week's EIA report if the crude holds here or climbs even further. The Fertilizer Institute CEO already told the Senate Ag Committee that 34% of the global urea supply moves through the Strait of Hormuz, and he closed that strait, and the fertilizers don't just tick up, they move hard and they move fast. Just how your mother likes it. U.S. and Chinese military officials held rare deconfliction talks in Hawaii this week, so that's a separate note, and that's also checking in on another major freight route. The Taiwan Strait is still on the watch list while the Gulf just kind of burns at the moment. So if you're moving grains, you're probably keeping an eye on both of those. And the bottom line is there is no deal, there's no ceasefire, and there's not much of an end in sight. So every week that this continues, your fuel and your nitrogen costs go up more. They cost more than they did the week before. And that's just math being math. It's not a doomsday thing. It's just that is the math on paper. Let's head over to some domestic ag news. We got a biosecurity watch. So hammering on the screwworms again. They're moving closer. It was 31 miles as I reported yesterday. That story was from Reuters on Friday. As of today, there was a goat infected with the New World screwworm about 25 miles south of the U.S. border in Coahuila, Mexico. So it's still ticking north. USDA says it's working around the clock, and the southern border has been shut for live cattle imports since last July, and there's no plan to reopen it as of yet. That closure is directly tightening the feeder supply in the Southwest, and it is moving the board today. If you're on the border there in the Southwest, make sure you know what the signs of screwworm are. Make sure you got plenty of anti-parasitic medicine, ivermectin, Dectomax, whatever. I don't know. I think it was Dectomax that they approved for use in the screwworms, but going from my years of experience, dewormer is better than no dewormer when you're dealing with something like that. Whether it's truly effective, I don't know. Also, I'd say talk to some of the old timers that know what this stuff looks like. Because if you're my age and younger, you probably don't. Never seen it because it was eradicated. Let's see. On another note, we got Nebraska Department of Agriculture confirmed that Theileria, which is a tick-borne blood parasite in cattle across 7 counties, the carrier is the Asian horned tick, or Asian longhorn tick. Be hilarious if it had like a big old rack of horns on it. But here's what makes this one different: there is no vaccine, and there is not an effective treatment at the moment. Clinical signs of this disease are jaundice and yellowing of the mucous membranes. So that'd be your gums, the nose, around your eyes. Sounds like it kind of has a little bit of a leptospirosis look to it. But anyway, the primary risk right now is importing cattle from the endemic areas, Virginia being the epicenter of all that. But anything coming from the east and south of Nebraska carries some potential exposure. So if you're buying breeding stock or stockers from the southeast or the east coast this summer, make sure you know what you're dealing with and what you're looking for before those cattle hit your pasture. The tick itself isn't established in Nebraska yet, which buys you some time. But if it does get there, that risk profile changes fast. I made a note over here. So I'll ask you guys out in Nebraska or that have living in the area, how much? I hate to downplay the fires because I've covered it a lot. It's a bad deal, but how much of kind of a silver lining is this? Are the fires with this? What is it called? Asian long-haired tick or whatever. The hell? Okay, my computer's shut down on me, so we'll have to start back to where we were. We hadn't got to the policy side yet. We were on... Okay, everything's working good on this end. Okay, we were on the Asian longhorn tick. No vaccine, no effective treatment. Clinical signs are jaundice. So, like I said, make sure that you're looking out for that. And then on the Nebraska angle, I'm not spent a ton of time in Nebraska, not much at all actually. And the only horse I've ever rode over there was at a wedding, and there were no cattle involved. So I'm definitely not your Nebraska Sandhills cowpuncher or buckaroo or cowboy, whatever they go by over there. A little bit of a hybrid, it sounds like. But I'm curious to see how much, if any, of a relief not having the grass to take stocker cattle. I don't know how many stockers get run in Nebraska. I know they run a lot of cattle. They're I think Texas is still the biggest cattle producing state in the country, but Nebraska's up there, Missouri's up there, and of course they border each other as well. Kansas is also up there, and they run a lot of stockers in eastern Kansas, and then western Kansas a lot of wheat pasture cattle. So I'm curious as to how much of an effect the fires and not having the forage for cattle, if that is kind of a blessing in disguise for Nebraska, not having to deal as much with this Asian longhorn tick. So if you're in the area and you know a little bit about this, let me know and inform me, educate me on this story. I'd rather hear it from real people than asking the intranets, which that data does come from real people, but it's good to hear it from real people. So if you're anything south and east of Nebraska, carries potential exposure. So if you're buying breeding stock or stockers from the southeast or the east coast this summer, make sure you know what you're potentially dealing with. Up in Washington State, they authorized the killing of one gray wolf following 3 suspected cattle attacks in the northeast corner of the state. It's one permit, one wolf that they're taking care of there. It's not a real management plan. That is a permission slip. So the fight over livestock and wolves in the West is ongoing, and it does not get resolved one wolf tag at a time. All right, let me see. Pop up the policy side of things here. Here we go. I'm not sure where to put myself, but we'll put it right there for now. All right, so Senate Bill 785, which is the American Beef Labeling Act, or the MCOOL bill. A cloture motion has been filed in the Senate, so a vote is coming on that. So if you've been bitching about country of origin labeling and how it needs to come back, call your representatives, call your senators, and let them know. Your senators first, because it is in the Senate. And then after all this stuff about with the packers and the fertilizer retailers and all this potential price fixing stuff and antitrust legislation and enforcement action that is possibly coming down, this MCOOL deal ties all into that. So if it's important to you, and I know it is for a lot of people, make sure you call your senators. Call them first, and then call your member House of Representatives. This is all at the federal level, so call your state people too. But on this particular issue, it's in the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House. Senate first. It's the closest that the MCOOL has been to passing since 2015. So, again, if you care about it, make sure that the people you voted for, or potentially didn't vote for, but the people that represent you, make sure they know about it. I'll be shooting off an email to Jackie Rosen and what's her, Catherine Cortez Masto. Her husband must be a real wiener. Any of those women with a hyphenated last name, I tend to look down on their men for not just giving them their last name. That's neither here nor there, though. Senate Bill 424, which is the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act, is still sitting in the Senate Ag Committee. I wanted to highlight that because of the spread between the basis, if you will, between the cash price and the board price. So the board says live cattle are worth $239 a hundredweight, and the sale barn says a 5-weight calf is worth $450 to $467 a hundred, and the 5-area cash average says fed cattle are worth $256 a hundred. So it's a $17 spread between the board and the cash. It's not just a trading curiosity. It's a live, real-time demonstration of exactly why that bill exists and exactly why the packers will spend a ton of money and do whatever it takes to make sure that it doesn't ever pass. Because if it does, they're going to have to buy more negotiated cash cattle, which means higher prices. And especially now with the tight cattle supply, the cattleman finally has some real type of leverage behind him. On the waters of the U.S., that's Senate Bill 1102, the Waters of the U.S. or Waters of the United States Clarification Act. The committee markup is scheduled for June 14th. So if you're out here in the West and you've got irrigation ditches or isolated wetlands or drainage infrastructure on your ground, this one hits a lot closer to home than most of what comes out of D.C. The EPA's revised definition after the Sackett versus EPA is still in play. It's 12 days out, but keep an eye on that. And if it affects you, call your senator. Let them know that, hey, this Waters of the U.S. thing needs to be severely scaled back, because it should not apply to a stock pond on out in the middle of the desert. And the U.S. trade representatives taking public comment through July 10th on the U.S.-China trade. That includes input cost, market access, and export competitiveness. So if you got something to say, the window is open on that. Also, the Farm Bureau is looking at the dairy margin coverage adjustments. The angle here, though, does extend beyond the dairy business. The point their economist is making is that even when feed costs ease up, the non-feed costs like vet bills and labor are eating the margin. That is a livestock-wide problem, not just a dairy problem. And if the dairy guys are talking about labor costs, that's bad because I rarely have seen them hire a U.S. born or U.S. citizen. They don't even hire Mexicans anymore hardly. It's all Central and South American, at least around here. So let's move on to the drought side of things. Map hasn't gotten any better. So my drought monitor on a Burning Daylight report. Let me pop it up right here. So we got the southeast at 62% in D2 to D4 range. The mid-south at 64. Southwest is at 66, taking the lead spot for the first time in a little bit. California is 0% in D2 to D4, but there's quite a bit in that D1 range. Corn Belt, 2%. Pacific Northwest's at 32%. And the Southern Plains at 41%. And then the Upper Midwest is doing pretty okay. 0% on the D2 to D4. But the Southwest, 62%. D2 to D4, Mid-South, Southeast, Southern Plains at 41%. It's all pretty bad news. Those aren't supplemental feeding numbers in the Southwest and Southeast. Those are numbers where you got to make a hard decision. So when 66% of your region is in D2 or worse, you gotta decide which cows stay on the ranch and which ones earn a one-way ticket to the sale barn. AgWeb ran a piece today with a producer from the Western Plains saying straight up that I've never seen anything like this. Quote, I've never seen anything like this. With water dwindling, wheat failing, hay is shrinking, and hard decisions are being made. That's not just editorializing the deal. That is a real life story, boots on the ground type deal. The number that frames the whole thing is in the 26 states that account for 88% of the 2026 beef cow in inventory. We try that again because I'm getting a little tongue-tied. In the 26 states, so just over half of the states that count for 88% of the 2026 beef cow inventory, drought is currently affecting over 79% of those cattle. So almost 80% of the U.S. cow herd is operating under drought stress right now. That comes from cattle range and Oklahoma State extension work. And that is the reason that even with the cattle on feed placements ticking up, we are not rebuilding the cow herd. It's hanging on and hanging on by a thread in a lot of places. The Corn Belt is still mostly okay, only 2% in severe plus drought, which is why the crop weather story and the cow-calf weather story are running in two completely different directions this summer. For Nevada and the rest of the West, you guys kind of know what it looks like in out in your area. There is CRP emergency grazing in drought-designated counties starting July 1st, pending the FSA authorization. I know I mentioned that already, but if you haven't called your FSA office, call them this week while it's still fresh in your mind. Yeah, drought's a tough one. I haven't met anybody that can make it rain yet. I don't know a ton of native folks. I know a few, but how effective their rain dances are, I don't know. I don't really know, and I don't recall Jesus ever saying anything about about a rain dance in the red letters. So I'll have to do some research on that and get back to you. All right. So let's check in on producer sentiment. We talked about this yesterday, but Purdue and Chicago Mercantile Exchange Ag Economy Barometer came in at 121 for the month of April. That was down from 127 in March, and it is the lowest it's been since October of 2024. 2/3 of producers expect farm income to fall in 2026, with 70% saying it's a bad time for major capital purchases. A lot of farmers not getting new pickups this year, it sounds like, which that's a shame. It's a damn shame. Almost half of those producers name high input costs as their number one concern. And that survey pulls from row crop country and cattle country, and those two places are not living the same story in 2026. So if you're farming corn on rented ground in Illinois, your budget is probably well into the red. Purdue's own numbers have corn returns going negative across most rented acre scenarios, and that's a truly rough spot to be in. But if you have cows and you own grass and you've got a calf crop on the ground right now, the picture looks a little bit different, with the 5-area cash trade still printing at 256 a hundred, and the national beef cow herd only at 27.6 million head. Again, smallest since the Truman administration. That supply story doesn't fix itself in a year or two. It takes it's a long-term recovery. And so the long-term leverage still belongs to the people who own the cattle and the land. But the danger for the cattlemen is not on the price side right now. It's almost entirely on not entirely. The biggest part that you can control is on the price side right now. And I mean, you can't really control that either, but I guess you can control it a little bit better than you can control. Then you can control the weather. Yeah. Diesel's at $5.35 this week, and probably going to head back up after all the drama in the Middle East. Nitrogen's up 47% since February. Anhydrous at $1,118 a ton. Your operating notes at 7.75%, and your feeder loans at 8.25%. Those costs are the squeeze. Prices are holding pretty steady right now, but the costs are the things that you'll have to worry about if you're not watching the right numbers. All right, let's wrap this baby up on this day in history. Here we go. On this day in history, June 2nd, 1953. 27-year-old Queen Elizabeth II was crowned at Westminster Abbey in a ceremony that turned into the first truly global televised coronation event. So I didn't like the Queen anyways, and now I like her even less. Every time there's something goes on with those damn royals, they got to cover it everywhere here. And we're, famously a country that said, fuck you to the monarchy. And our first president turned down a kingship. So the broadcast helped cement TV as the way the world watches power change hands. And ever since then, when somebody puts a crown on or takes an oath, there's some big celebration and a big hullabaloo around it. And the best thing to ever come out of that whole situation is the South Park episode about the King and Queen of Canada. That was funny, as is tradition. On June 2nd, 1946, Italians voted in a national referendum to scrap their monarchy and become a republic after World War II, with women voting in a national election for the first time ever. When the ballots were counted, the old royal house was out and the Italian Republic was in. And a whole lot of farm and working families had just put their thumb on the scale for what their country would look like next. Was it a good move? I don't know. I like Italy, but it seems like they're just another European cesspool. But that's neither here nor there. Got a lot of Italian people of Italian descent out here in Nevada, and I like them all. They're all pretty good people, it seems like. On this day, June 2nd, 1936, the U.S. House moved a resolution on America's participation in the 6th World's Chicken Poultry Congress, treating a chicken show like a matter of national policy and sending it to the Committee of the Whole on the State of the Union. It sounds a little weird, but it's a snapshot of how even back then DC was tying farm production and genetics and export bragging rights together under the same roof. And that was well before anybody coined the buzzwords like food security or protein demand. Turns out people got to eat. Turns out. And on this day, June 2nd, 1924, Congress finally passed the Indian Citizenship Act, the Indian Citizenship Act, granting U.S. citizenship to all Native Americans born in the United States. Didn't give anybody their land back, but it did put the people who'd been farming and hunting this country for thousands of years into the same legal bucket as the settlers who eventually conquered them. And that tension over who actually calls the shots on that piece of land, those pieces of land, is still hanging over a lot of grazing leases and water fights and tribal policy still to this day. So, quick little rundown, and we'll get out of here. Here's the tape before we go on the board. Live cattle came in at 239.80. That was down 9.95 on the day. Feeders at 348.90, down 4.13. Two ugly sessions in a row. But the cash side is not following along, at least not yet. On the sale barn side, we had 23,068 head across 20 different sale barn markets that I followed, averaging 415.74 a hundredweight. Gainesville, Missouri is at 467 a hundred. Bluegrass, Kentucky at 468. Fort Scott, Kansas at 449. Bowman, North Dakota at 431. And I'll update you tomorrow on what the I saw the Beaver County Stockyard market report, but it's a little hard to read, and it's not very, it's organized by class. It doesn't have the averages and everything in it yet. So I'll update you on that tomorrow. But they moved 5,810 head with the light end still moving really well, and the fat end kind of following the board, ticking a little bit lower. Same story across every barn in every state that I followed so far today or over the past week. On the grain side, corn's at 440, down 16 cents. Soybeans at 11.63, that was down 31.5 cents. Hard red winter wheat on the Kansas City Exchange, 634, that was down 31.25. And soybean meal at 325.10 a ton. The feed cost relief is pretty real this week, but probably better keep an eye on it because the way the weather has been, the grain market could get pretty ugly if you're buying feed coming this summer. On the fuel side, diesel was down this week to $5.35 a gallon, down 17 cents week over week. But the West Texas index closed at 94.56 a barrel today, up 6.4% on the session due to the non-ceasefire that we have going on. The pump relief has about a week before the crude catches back up to it at the pump. On the war end, Iran launched missiles and drones at Kuwait and Bahrain. We struck Qasem Island, and then also fired on an Iranian oil tanker. There's no ceasefire. There is no deal. So watch the crude this week. Like your input bill depends on it because, wink, wink, I'm going to go Joe Biden here. It does. It does. Screwworms 20 miles from the U.S. border as of today, according to Brownfield. It was 31 miles on Friday, and the southern border is still shut for live cattle imports. No reopening plan, but that nasty little bug is moving closer, so make sure you know what you're dealing with. Talk to the old-timers that have direct first-hand experience with it. Theileria is alive and well in Nebraska. It's tick-borne. There is no vaccine, no treatment. Comes from the Asian longhorn tick. So if you're buying cattle from east of the Mississippi this summer, make sure you also know what you're dealing with. Jaundice-like conditions, and sounds like a pretty nasty deal, especially with no effective treatment at the moment. Or at least that's what I'm hearing. I don't know. I've not dealt with it. I'd have to see what it looks like up close, and I bet you I could probably put something together that might help a little bit. But I don't know. That's just me with my my 2 decades of feedlot experience. I do know what to do with a sick cow every now and then. Washington, there's one permit for one rogue wolf up in northeastern part of the state. Three cattle attacks is what it finally took for him to get it, but that fight is not over. The MCOOL cloture vote is coming. Make sure your senator knows that you want it passed. If that is the case, do it now, because that vote is coming up. And I've heard from different people that deal with Washington, and from people on the staff of senators and whatnot. Call the office. Don't send the email. You're just going to get an automated response on the email. Call them, because they have to actually answer the phone. And if enough people call, things do tend to happen that way, especially if you're one of their constituents. The Cattle Price Discovery Act, Senate Bill 424, is still in committee. But today's $17 board-to-cash spread is Exhibit A for why it matters, and Exhibit B for why the Packers will spend big money and do whatever it takes to kill it. The Waters of the U.S. markup is on June 14th, so we got 12 days. If you're running cattle or farming or doing anything with water out here in the western U.S., pay attention. So that's what I got for you today. This has been the Friggin Farm and Ranch Report for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026. Got it back online even after some technical difficulties. The live stream will not be complete, so I'll have to re-upload all those videos. But don't worry, I do that anyhow. Make sure you head over to burningdaylight.substack.com if you like what I'm doing. You can support me over there. I will have the full transcript for this episode, and you'll be able to follow along with the episode and see the articles that I look at. You'll see the dashboard. All the links and stuff will be there. There'll be charts and graphs. It'll be super nerdy and super cool. So that's what I got for you today. Take care of yourself out there. Don't let this old world get you down. It's just life. You don't leave it alive. But take care of yourself. Take care of your neighbors, and don't let your butt crack. Now move your ass. We're burning daylight.
You rise up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Just together, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right.